From the town of Tyngsborough, I'm Rooney Camille, and this is Entering Tyngsborough. In this episode of the program, we talk with Diana Keohane from the Sustainability Committee to talk about recycling, responsible living, and how residents can help build a greener, cleaner Tyngsborough.
And there are three aspects of sustainability. There's environmental, economic, and social. And the Sustainability Committee is focused more on the environmental part without losing sight of the other two aspects.
Before we dive in, have you ever wondered how your town government really works? Well, here's your chance to find out. The Tyngsborough Civic Leadership Academy is returning in August. It's a free 10-week program that will give you a behind-the-scenes look at how town government works. From public safety, finance, schools, zoning, planning, and much more. You'll meet the people who make the town run and explore how decisions are made. Whether you're curious or thinking about getting more involved, this is your opportunity to connect, learn, and maybe even lead. Sign up now through the end of July on the town's website at tyngsboroughma.gov. Now, back to the show. Diana Keohane, welcome to Tyngsborough's Front Porch. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you.
Thanks for joining us. So,
Sure.
You're kind of the... Actually, you've not been on the program before.
No.
For people that may not know you, if you could introduce yourself.
Sure. My name is Diana Keohane. I've been a resident of Tyngsborough for several years. I haven't added it up lately, but we moved into town in 91.
That's a long time?
It's a long time, yeah. I'm not doing the math.
Where's home originally for you?
I grew up in Manchester, New Hampshire, actually Hooksett, but most people haven't heard of Hooksett. So I grew up in Manchester.
And how did you and your family, your husband,
end up down here?
End up in Tyngsborough? Because he's from upstate New York.
Watertown, New York.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
How did you guys end up in Tyngsborough?
We both worked in high tech down in this area. I was working in Littleton, and he was working in Andover at the time, I think, when we bought. And so, and we were getting ready to start a family. We had a condo before, and then we were getting ready to start a family, so we wanted to find a house. And we had settled in this area, something in this area between Westford and Tyngsborough and Groton. And we ended up finding the perfect house for us in Tyngsborough.
And
so
you've been there ever since.
We've been there ever since.
And you guys, and full disclosure, your husband is on the select board.
Correct.
And you guys have been ingrained in this community for the last 30 plus years.
Yeah. It's actually, when you first move into a town, you don't know how to get involved. So, and we didn't really know anybody. And it's really once we had kids, and we were both working outside of Tyngsborough.
Sure.
So it was a bedroom for us at that time. And we both, once we had kids and we got involved with the kids, I started by getting involved with the schools on school council, and then ran for school committee. And then I left my career because we ended up with 4 kids. And so I left my career to raise those kids and stayed home for 10 years. And I was on school committee during that time. And I also, it's, near to me is I was part of starting up the recycling committee under the Board of Health. I don't know when that was.
Yeah, that's one of the questions I was going to ask. So
Yeah.
we're here talking about sustainability in town.
Right.
Can you give me a quick overview of what sustainability does and the goals are here in Tyngsborough?
Right. Well, first of all, what do we mean by sustainability? And to me, sustainability means how can we meet our current needs without compromising the needs of future generations to meet their own needs. Okay, so it's trying to help ourselves live more sustainably. And there are 3 aspects of sustainability. There's environmental, economic, and social. And the Sustainability Committee is focused more on the environmental part without losing sight of the other 2 aspects. So we're looking at how can we conserve resources, how can we reduce pollution, how can we mitigate climate change. So back in 2019, I think it was, another member in town, and she was one of the founding members as well, Liz Antanavica, and I, we're talking about that and how it's more than recycling. The recycling committee had been in existence. As I said, I was part of that. So was our current executive administrator, Jackie. Is that what her position title is? What's it called? Admin executive?
Executive assistant to the town
Executive
manager and
assistant
select
to the
board.
town manager,
Yes.
Jackie Snackard. So we were part of the founding group that did recycling committee.
I recall.
But we were very limited in what we could do that because it was purely recycling, and sustainability is so much more than that. So Liz and I talked about that, and we put together a proposal to form a sustainability committee. And where do you put that? It doesn't fit just within conservation. It doesn't fit just within Board of Health. It was kind of broader than that because it's got the energy aspects and stuff. So we went to the town administrator at that time, and that was the suggestion, was to have it be an appointed board to the select board. And that's how we formed back in 2019.
And
so 6 years.
Wow, 6 years. Congratulations. And what drew you personally to this type of civic work? Because for the longest time you were education.
Yes.
And I mean, this is still a sort of education in a way. But
In a way.
Kind of what drew you to that?
I think I've always been drawn to this, the issue of how do we stop using so many resources and wasting so many resources for the town. I've just always, in my church, I'm on the Green Committee in my church. It's just something that's important to me, is managing our use of resources and thinking about the future and trying to minimize our impact. And we all see that climate change is real, and we're all feeling the impacts of that. So
Sure.
that's why I've been involved with it since the beginning.
You mentioned it's more than recycling. There's obviously different factors to it, but a big part of it is the recycling
Is
aspect,
waste reduction.
Is waste reduction, and
Yes.
The costs that it.
Yes.
We regular folks that are not into this world that we in municipal government do not know that there's a cost for everything, right?
Yes. Yeah.
And people don't realize that we actually have a lot of these sustainable and recycling efforts in town.
Right.
Hence why you're here. So a lot of residents don't know that we have a recycling center.
Right.
Can you walk us through that? What it is, where it is, and
Yeah.
how people can access it?
Yeah. It started pretty simple. There was always what they call a mercury shed, and that gets funded by our Republic, by our waste contractor. And that is where it was to keep mercury out of the waste stream, because that's very dangerous. And so people can bring their compact fluorescents, they can bring their thermostats, thermometers, anything with mercury in them, they can bring them there and they'll be disposed of safely. And then we had residents complaining that the cardboard was taking up too much room in their recycling carts, or it's hard to cut it down to fit into the recycling carts. So we got a container. It was at the elementary school, but we were having some issues with it being at the elementary school. There were some dumping issues going on. So we moved it to what was then the highway department. And then residents wanted, so basically it's just grown over time, kind of informally, and it's become a recycling center. So after the mercury, then the cardboard, then we added a bin for people to bring textiles, shoes, clothing, curtains, any material items to the highway department, or back then it was the highway department, and HelpSee takes those away, and we get, number one, we're not paying the tonnage to dispose of that. Number two, we're getting a little bit of money from HelpSee. For every pound that gets put in there, we get paid money. The town gets that money. And number three, a lot of it's recycled, and some of it's even put back into use. Some of it gets resold by HelpSee in the used clothing market. So we added textiles, and then the next thing we added was scrap metal, because at our Zero Waste Day events, we had A lot of people bringing little pieces of scrap metal and stuff, as well as big things.
And scrap metal, a little bit adds up.
It all adds up. Yeah, I mean, it's been amazing how often that huge container gets filled with scrap metal, and again, we get money for that scrap metal. So not only isn't it getting burned up at the incinerator with trash, we're not paying to dispose of those things. And then on top of that, we're getting a little bit of money. It's not the money we get, it's the money we save by it not being in our trash.
Sure. And any sort of items that people are surprised that we can accept?
Well, then the final thing that we've added now, just recently, it's been going for a year successfully, is food waste. And so people can bring their scrap food, and there are bins there. There are 2 bins that they can throw their food in, or certified compostable serviceware. They can put that in there, and Black Earth will come and pick it up and turn it into rich compost.
And does that come back to Tyngsborough, or does that go in other places?
The compost?
Yes.
They sell the compost.
Okay.
But again, so back in 2023, we did a waste characterization study, and we learned in that study that almost half of the tonnage of our trash that we bring to the curb, almost half of it is food waste. And so
I see.
And we can't really justify having a truck emitting emissions, driving house to house to pick up food waste. But we thought, let's start by putting 2, collection bins right there at the highway department, and people are bringing their food there, and they're filling up. They come every week and pick it up, and it's amazing how much people are bringing it. So it's great that it gives residents a chance to participate in that.
And what items are not accepted that folks should be careful not to bring?
The things we have to be careful with is, first of all, when they're bringing their cardboard. Some people are leaving the styrofoam inside the cardboard, and that's not recyclable with cardboard. It's recyclable, but we don't recycle it, right? It goes in the trash. So styrofoam out of the cardboard. In the scrap metal, if they're putting in a small engine of some sort, right? If they can lift it up and get it in there, we just want to be sure that there's no oil left in it, and that's hazardous waste.
Sure.
So that should be emptied. They should be emptied before putting them in. And then the food waste, if you're bringing your stuff in a regular plastic bag to dump into that bag is not compostable. That would contaminate the composting. So you should just dump it in and keep the bag and bring it home and throw it out or reuse it or whatever. If it's a certified compostable bag, then the whole thing can be tossed in as one. You can throw the bag in if it's certified compostable.
Fascinating. I did not
You didn't know that, huh?
Did not know that until today, and I'm sure somebody listening or watching us would appreciate that information.
And I also think that what people that have been using it might be a little confused because the access to the recycling center has changed.
Yes, that
right?
was one of my questions.
So you used to be able to get to it right, it's at the DPW, which is the old highway department.
On Kendall Road.
On Kendall Road, and you used to be able to get to it right from Kendall Road. Now
there's a new road.
There's a new road called Commerce Way.
Commerce Way, yes.
I had to look it up this morning. It's called Commerce Way. It's between where the DPW is and the Park and Ride. So you turn into that, and then there's going to be there is an access road off of Commerce Way into the whole DPW and the recycling center.
Once you get on Commerce Way, take a right.
Correct. Yeah, go on Commerce Way, then take a right. And I think I'm going to be working with George to do a little video to show people the recycling center.
So that's great. Let's talk about community outreach. You, since the formation of sustainability, well, even before that, you've done a lot of outreach work.
Correct.
What sort of feedback do you get when you're out? You and your committee members are out in the field. We recently had a health and safety day over at Ironwood with the grand opening. What are you hearing on the streets from residents with all these sustainability efforts?
We get really good feedback. We get a lot of appreciation for making people aware of things that they weren't aware of. Like for example, everybody thinks recycling is the be all and end all. But what we've been trying to communicate out there is that it's reducing how much you use to begin with, and then reusing what you do get. And recycling is really the final step, is disposing of it as responsibly as possible. And so people have appreciated kind of switching their mind to thinking about it that way. And so they appreciate the information. We get questions. What we did get at the health fair were questions about, I don't get town trash service I want to recycle, but I want to recycle these things. What can I do? And they were very happy to learn that even if they don't get town service, they can go to that recycling center and use the scrap metal and use the textile bin and the cardboard bin and bring their food waste. So they were happy about that. They're also, this time we focused also on showing people about what native plants were versus invasive plants and why that's important to be planting native plants. And so there was a lot of interest in that as well.
What are some
It's
of
a
the
huge thing.
What are some of the native plants in this community that you could maybe share off the top of your head?
Well, I mean, you mean invasives are the thing that...
Natives, sorry.
Oh, you want the natives.
Yeah, sorry, natives, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, geez. So Amy Przerski is our expert in this space. There's a lot of native plants. It's more the invasive that we're worried about.
All right, what are the invasives?
The invasives, the big one is bittersweet, oriental bittersweet, which grows all along the sides of the roads. It's that it strangles trees and stuff like that. And then there's Japanese knotweed. That's a really bad one. And all of these, they're considered invasive because they're not from here. They're non-native. So the insects and the birds, they really can't gain any nutrition from these plants. And so they're not kind of kept in check. And so they spread rapidly.
Okay.
And they're not providing nutrients to the wildlife in this area. So, the biggest native one that helps our butterfly population are the milkweeds. And the more milkweeds, the better. That helps the butterflies lay their eggs on the milkweed and get nutrients from them as well. But there's tons of natives, and so we want to focus on that. I'm kind of jumping around here, but
not at all.
we got some funding from the Mass Cultural Council, and so we're going to hold a couple of workshops. That's the feedback we've got. We're running a survey, an online survey for residents, and people would rather have hands-on workshops than watch movies about topics and stuff. So we're going to try to bring workshops, and that's going to be one of the areas.
And we're taping this episode of Entering Tyngsborough in the first week of July, last day of June.
Last day of June.
For us in the municipal world, this is kind of
the end of the year.
The end of the year for us. When do you anticipate holding these workshops?
We just received notice that we got the grant in June, and so we have a year.
Congratulations.
Thank you. So we have a year to put those workshops on.
Okay.
So we just got the notice, and we're developing the list. Because of that survey, we're looking at the areas that people are interested in and then bringing workshops.
So where's this survey being distributed?
It's online, and when we have our events, we hold our repair cafes, our zero waste days at the health fair. That's when we tell people that we have the survey, and they go in. It's a quick 2-minute survey. Maybe you can, after we can put a link in here to that survey.
Yeah, absolutely.
That would be great.
For sure.
That would be
You just
great.
mentioned another event.
Yes.
The Repair Cafe.
Repair Cafe.
Let's chat about that. What is that all about?
So we hold 2 repair cafes a year. We do it with the Rotary Club and the library. The other interesting thing that I bet you people don't know is that there's a library of things at the library.
Yes.
You can borrow things.
We talked about
Oh,
that
you
with the
did.
library director
Excellent.
3 episodes back.
Excellent. Yeah. So you can borrow items. So they bring a lot of those tools to our repair cafe. And basically residents can come and bring something that needs fixing. And we have a bunch of volunteers who love to do this, from sewers to jewelry repairers to tech, computer people, to fix it. These people that can fix anything. And it's great because they work with the customer, with the client. They're working with them, trying to figure out how to fix something. So there's some learning going on.
Is there a cost?
There's no cost. It's all free.
And where?
It's all volunteers.
And typically, where is this repair cafe?
So far, we've had every repair cafe at the Beehive, which is the co-working community on Middlesex.
Yes.
So we've had everyone there, and it's a wonderful space. They donate the space, and there's like little rooms. We've had people with car issues, like a window that won't go up or something. So some
Really?
of our volunteers are out in the parking lot helping people fix those. People bring in bikes that need to be fixed. It's really neat. And so our goal is we tend to hold those 1 or 2 weeks before Zero Waste Day. So if somebody brings in something that's not working, we try to help them get it working. If it works, great. They go home. If it doesn't work, then they can bring it to Zero Waste Day and we can recycle it.
Okay.
So, yeah.
You look back at all these programs that you're. I'm now lost of words. And I'm a person that crafts words for a living. Do you believe that you're kind of creating some sort of not a microcosm, but
Like
community type sort of?
Yeah. You mean like a micro community within Tyngsborough that's sharing this concern for wanting to be responsible. Yeah.
And do you think it's taking shape now, or do you think there's?
I think we're getting there. The fact that we've had people, as we've had openings on the Sustainability Committee, we've had people step right in and want to be part of that. I think that shows a bit. I don't know what else to say about the community. We do tend to have kind of a core set of people that volunteer and that come to these events. We see the same people year after year coming to Zero Waste Day, coming to Repair Cafe. I think we're building a community and we want to grow it. And we look for ways to get the word out there. I mean, not everybody has to be active part of that community, but trying to get the word out to everybody to maybe just do a few things that they're comfortable with that can help save our resources.
Right. Beyond recycling, what are some simple steps residents can take to live more sustainability, whether at home or in their neighborhoods?
Again, as I said, recycling is the final step. So thinking before you buy, do I really need that item? And if I really need that item, can I buy it used, or can I get it for free? Maybe somebody has it. Yep, there's Free Cycle. We also, again, Liz and I founded Sustainability Committee, but another community member, Karen Pulio, and I started up the Buy Nothing Tyngsborough group, which is a Facebook group that now has about 2,000 members.
Nice.
You have to live in Tyngsborough, and people just offer things that they no longer need, and people say, I'm interested, and then they choose who to give it to. We've been doing it, we started doing it in 2020, I want to say. So it's been about 5 years, maybe 2019, maybe it's been 6 years. But it's incredible. I mean, I have friends in other towns, and they might have 1 or 2 items posted a day that are being offered. We get 20 to 30 items a day are being offered on Buy Nothing. And most of the stuff is wanted, and it just keeps, things are just changing hand, and all that stuff is stuff that's not being purchased and resources that aren't being used.
Any plans on opening up to non-residents that may work in town?
We do. We have opened it up to teachers, because a lot of the teachers in town don't live here, but they can use these items for their classrooms. Right. So we definitely have opened it up. And yeah, we do. If somebody works here in town, they can be members.
Good to know.
Yeah.
How can people get involved in sustainability, whether volunteering or attending meetings?
Both. They can come to our website and, Sustainability Committee website, see what we're doing. Our meetings are always the third Tuesday night of every month at 6:30. We have our meetings. And we have an email address, sustainability@tyngsborough.gov, right? I think that's what it is. And people can send emails to that with questions or wanting to get involved. That's great. And hopefully our workshops, will be able to spread the word about our workshops, and they can come to the workshops, meet the committee, express what areas they're interested in.
Diana, what's your vision for sustainable Tyngsborough 5 and 10 years from now?
Well, instead of it being a micro community, it would be great if everybody had sustainability on their minds, or a good portion of the community. We've been working to reduce our overall tonnage, trash and recycling, because as I said, recycling is still stuff that needs to be disposed of. We've been working to try to reduce it 3% per year. So in 5 years, it would be great if we had 20% less trash and recycling tonnage than we did back in 2020. We track it. We have a spreadsheet that tracks how much is disposed of in this community.
Is that online somewhere?
No, I can.
You know, I was going to ask you that.
Yeah, no.
Maybe it should be online.
I think it should be. I think people should see it. I'll talk to you about a way to get that in consumable. There's a lot of data in there. We're also tracking how much we're diverting with the scrap metal and the textile from Help C and the food waste. So we're measuring all of that as well.
That's wonderful.
Yeah, I'll share it with you, and maybe we can figure out a way to put it up there.
And so for somebody that's, tuned in to this program, what is that one thing that can make a difference? And what would you recommend they start with?
Well, it depends on which aspect. Again, think before you buy something is one thing, right? And then dispose of it responsibly. In the terms of energy usage, which is what we're expanding into now, is renewable energy and stuff. Maybe having your house be 2 degrees cooler in the winter and 2 degrees warmer in the summer on the hot days when you're turning on the air conditioner. That 2 degrees can save like 5% off your energy bill, and it's reducing how much energy we use. So in the energy field, maybe just tweak your temperature a couple of degrees. And then in your yards, smaller yards, smaller, we don't need as much grass as we have. Planting native plants can help, and pulling those invasives, because the invasives in your yard are spreading to other yards, and we're trying to stop those. So those are simple things that everybody can do.
All right. Diana Keohane, resident of town of Tyngsborough and with the Sustainability Committee. Thank you so much for joining us on the program.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. And that is all the time that we have for this episode of Entering Tyngsborough. You can learn more about Tyngsborough's town government and the community by visiting the town's website. That's tyngsboroughma.gov. For the town of Tyngsborough, I'm Roni Camille. Thanks so much for joining us. And until next time, wishing you the best of goodbye.